I'm glad to see this many people here. I mean, we've done this for several years. This is probably the most people we've had at the broadcast part. The wireless always gets a huge crowd. But the interesting thing with this panel is that basically I'm the system integrator. Jim is the content owner. And then we have two, Chuck and John, who basically make the equipment. So we have a diversity of talent that's on this panel. I'm going to go in it fairly quickly and follow some of the questions that were in the program as far as best practices in broadcast. So one of the first question was, what does it take to get high quality content to today's viewer across multiple platforms? And that's what you've been hearing this morning, was multiple platforms, especially with Bruce and the QVC channel. They've went from being a single platform in effect to multiple platforms. Even ABC, on my iPad I have the APC app, so I can watch the programs that they allow me to watch on that iPad.
They don't have everything, Tom.
So that's what's going on. One of the things that we're seeing is that the compression technologies are getting better all the time. Somewhere around 2007, I think it was the crossover point really from MPEG-2 to MPEG-4. And I think India drove a lot of that. Some of the programs that we worked on, Bharti Airtel, drove the cost of those IRDs down to the same price as MPEG-2, and that really started the big move to MPEG-4. And I'm certain there'll be some new compression technologies. Even in the existing MPEG world, they have made improvements both to MPEG-2 and MPEG-4 from what it used to be. Is that right, Dan? You're going to have the ability to ingest, transrate, transcode, transform, do all of these things with your content because of these multiple platforms. And it's not an easy task, and it's changing every day. I mean, one day it's this, the next day it's that, and you have to keep up with all that and be able to do that and to be able to go to those multiple formats, the multiple data rates. You're going to have to deal with connectivity over multiple mediums and content delivery networks. One of our customers is New Line, and they basically are over-the-top internet provider. When they don't just have one content delivery network, they have multiple content delivery networks, Akamai, Limelight. And what they do, they've put their own software together so that if they see that one network is getting congested, they'll automatically go over to the other network. So they have a lot of redundancy built into their content delivery networks. We're also finding, as a system integrator, that we're getting customers, potential customers, that are looking for us to build a media processing center where we do provide for the multiple platforms. An example of this was Copaca in the country of Paraguay, who wanted IPTV, over the top, direct to home, and in all of them they wanted everything you could possibly think of, every kind of video on demand there is, every kind of streaming they could think of, all in one media processing center. Most broadcasters today are going to have to, if they don't already have it, be prepared for file-based delivery, file-based architecture, because with the VOD and everything like that, you're getting a lot of nonlinear content, and you're going to have a network that supports the file-based architecture. And lastly, on this particular page, the broadcaster has to be a master of multiple engineering disciplines. You can't just know video and audio anymore. You've got to know how to configure a Cisco router. All of this stuff is being IP encapsulated, going over local area networks, and you've got to know and understand that in order to build and work on these new media processing centers. The other question that was asked is, what will it take tomorrow, and how are broadcast and enterprise networks preparing for the future? Well, one of the things that I think that we're going to see in the future is that the broadcast facility the local area networks are going to have to increase up to 100 gigabits per second. You know, why do I say that? Because if you go to NAB or some of these shows now, you're seeing what's called ultra high definition television. Now, I think when we built Showtime, we were probably only concerned about 1.5 gigabits per second. We weren't looking at 3 gigabits per second. Now, after that, everybody's building 3 gigabits per second equipment, so you got to design your facility so it can do 3 gigabits per second. If you get into ultra high definition, that's 16 times the resolution of high definition. That's 24 gigabits per second. So if it comes, you're going to have your facility that can have some of the lands, not all of the lands, but at least some of the lands be able to be 100 gigabits per second. The broadcaster has to prepare for second screen customers. Most people are moving now to where their content not only is over the traditional network, but I'm too close to that. But it's going to the iPad, the iPhone, all these other screens, the connected screens. And the broadcast, Dan brought this one up. The broadcaster is going to have to understand and prepare for social TV. Like what Dan said is when people are going to be watching TV, they're going to have these other devices. They're going to Twitter, they're going to have Facebook, things like that. And they're going to say, wow, this is a great program, this is what we're going to do. And they're going to drive people to certain content. And the broadcaster has to understand that and know how to prepare for that. He also needs to include interactivity. So once you have the second screen, the connected device, you're going to have this interactivity between the customer and you. With the advent of the second screen, and this was discussed too, the dynamic. I think Richard talked about that. The dynamic capability of your advertising. You're going to know who your customer is, and you're going to know how to direct your advertising to that customer. And broadcasters will have to learn how to either develop apps or incorporate existing apps into their offerings. One of the questions I wanted to ask Bruce, but I didn't get a chance, was who does your apps? Do you do your own? Because if you have an iPad or an iPhone, you've got to have a specific app for that phone so that you can stream that video to it. Well, Bruce said he outsources it. So those are some of the things you're going to have to decide. Do you do your own apps? Do you outsource? Because that look and feel of that app is going to be really important for what your content and what your viewer thinks about it. The broadcaster is going to have to continuously change and incorporate the latest internet streaming. Several years ago, Dave Hirschberg, our CEO, said, oh, yeah, all the television is going to go through the internet. And I said, no way, that just can't happen. First of all, who's going to want to watch the little screen that stops and buffers and then moves on again? Nobody's going to do it. But now, today, you start looking at it, and you know it's on a big screen. It doesn't stop the buffer. It's as clear as a bell. It's, maybe Dave was right. Maybe, so we got to think about that. Broadcasters have to think about that. Is it all going to move to the internet? And even with that, when I say they have to continuously change, that's because every week it seems like they've come up with a new technology to even improve streaming over the internet. You went from progressive download to adaptive streaming now. What's it going to be tomorrow?
As long as you pacify the lawyers.
And the workflow is today, and it's going to become even more complex. When you're trying to go to all these multiple platforms, you really have to have that workflow down pat. You have to design your facility to that workflow. And they're going to have to build new services to compete. There's no question in that. If you just stay with the old stuff, the rest of people are going to get all the eyeballs. And connected or smart TV is here today. It's already existing, and the broadcaster has to adapt. And I have a little screen here. This is the Samsung Smart TV. Picture in a picture up here. You've got Netflix, Hulu, Facebook, Twitter, your videos, your music, your channels, all of that this exists today. You got the keypad. This is a double-sided keypad. They have keys on the other side, keys on this side. Allow you to do that. You can buy this right now today. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Chuck Deal, Evert's Senior Network Account Manager. Today, on his previous slide, he had how to address the workflow, and that's what I'm going to be talking about for multiple channels. There's market pressures. More market pressures to deliver more consumer devices. We've seen the devices out there. Here's a sampling. The same content has to be tailored to multiple markets. Bruce, I'm sorry, I should have got you the QVC logo up there, or Dave. So how does an operator manage this efficiency? Well, we have to utilize CMS, which is Content Management Systems, as a digital factory. Talking with customers, you have to establish preset workflows, utilize rules to automate workflows, push manual tasks far upstream to a common point in the workflow. This allows CMS to collectively manage all the tasks. CMS collectively manage hardware and software resources. The result is an automated preparation and package of many channels in a streamlined workflow. The advantages over traditional approach. Operational consistency. Operators are presented with consistent user experience across multiple underlying channels. The abstract workflow and multiple file migration concentrates and to take the tasks at hand. The network needs to have highly scalable databases. It has to have content servers to do all the heavy lifting. The infrastructure has to have one-to-many outputs. Okay? You need to have the scalable throughput, which pulls from a shared pool. Where does this fit in a digital factory? Well, here, this is more of a traditional block diagrams. You can see, the rights management, acquisition, then you have operations, you have infrastructure, the servers, the routers, modular. But now, with today, software packages, you need to have search, browse, media logistics, content management, audit trail. Then there's the file flow, media management, transfer management, transcoding, and rewrapping. This all gets combined into these departments. Ingest once, reuse many. This graphic is more, you've probably seen this several times, many different ways. Okay, you have a central storage, you have ingest, tape library. Oops, let me go back to that. But this is more of a traditional way of doing things. What we're noticing is if we're going to address these multiple channels, we have to create software menus that can actually address the ingest all in one fashion. And then mark up each, well, you have one piece of content, and each content can be used many different ways, but you have it all on one display. Here, we bring in the information, spot check, quality control, and then you'll have the same content, but this could be your transmission, this will be the web, and this may be an iPad of some sort, but now it all gets marked differently. Here's just some menu that you have it all laid out. Once those are marked for the same content, then this gets passed off to editing and transcoding. Downstream, the same thing happens. You have markup, the .coms, you mark up the transmission, VOD, and you combine all this workflow into one menu. Is it? So now the markers are all saved. It gets transcoded and delivered to all your multiple channels. Content management, automation of workflows and tasks. Ascent follows the workflow. Each step is a task. Automate the file movement for each task. Perform these tasks